Well, thank you for taking the time to sit down and
You're
chat with me.
welcome. You're welcome.
So, Ian, can you tell me a little about your gym, where you're located, who you serve, what kind of makes you guys unique?
Yeah, so I have two gyms. We have Guide Personal Training Company and Pioneer Valley CrossFit. So they're kind of next door to each other. They're in the same building, basically. And we are in Western Massachusetts and Northampton. And so one's a semi-private personal training studio and one's a CrossFit gym. So
Nice.
yeah.
And what are some goals that you had as a gym owner before implementing CNU Stretch?
Well, I was really focused on increasing revenue per square foot of my my CrossFit gym space, trying to utilize more space for that. So I was really trying to just have another revenue stream. And so this kind of fit the bill.
And, you know, have you tried other revenue stream options prior?
Not like specifically something different than a fitness class or a fitness program besides retail, but no, I hadn't really tried anything quite like this besides I've had like a massage therapist rent a space before,
Mhm.
but that's not really much revenue. So.
Gotcha. So, what was keeping you up at night before discovering CNU Stretch?
Yeah, this basically trying to get my CrossFit gym more profitable. Yeah.
Gotcha. And then,
Or profitable.
to get the CrossFit profitable.
Yeah, exactly.
Is it profitable now?
It is now. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah,
That's really cool. I remember you were looking at your numbers earlier today. You're like,
oh, okay. Things have changed. Yeah.
Things are going up, which is pretty cool. What was the moment or the event that triggered you to realize that you had to do something at that time?
Well, for me personally, it was really at a crux decision. I'm like, I'm giving myself a year to see if I can turn this ship around, and I'm going to go all in on what I can to try to keep the CrossFit gym going, before the idea of like entertaining like closing it or changing or whatever maybe doing with that. So this was part of the process, and it was kind of a promise to some of my staff too. It was just, all right, I'm going to do everything I can and see what we can do. And if it doesn't work, then we'll know, but I'm going to do everything I can, and I'm going to make investments into this. And that was one of the things that I tried.
That's awesome. How did you hear about CNU Stretch?
Through you. through knowing you through the Iron Circle.
Nice. So what's it about the program compared to other options you could have went all in on?
Well, yeah, I felt like it was relatively low risk in terms of the investment, because I felt pretty confident that I could at least get my money back from the certification, and I felt pretty good about the numbers on that. So it was timing wise, I think you kind of showed up and presented it in a way that I was like, okay, I think this would be good because I like service-based things that are going to improve the quality and value for my clients. And, it's something that's missing in the services that we have. So, yeah.
Cool. And then, what hesitations or concerns did you have before moving forward?
Probably just staffing it. I think, figuring out how that was going to work. And, I was nervous to see if my current member base would be interested in it or not, or if they would buy it. I think sometimes I assume just from other things you try to get people to buy that they're cost, sensitive or resistant to like anything new and feel sales pitchy on. But that really wasn't the case.
How did your members respond?
I was shocked at how fast it grew. It almost grew a little bit too fast, right? And I was just really surprised because I had convinced myself, because I'm offering it to through both gyms because they're so close, that the CrossFit member base wasn't going to buy it because they're just the lower price point in general. And historically, they just don't seem to put money down for extra things, but they're the higher percentage of clientele that use it. Granted, it's happening in their space, so they see it, but in the lobby, but where it's happening it's in a room that they can see from the lobby. But yeah, I'm really surprised. But I think in some ways, I think that makes sense because it's a group of people that are really committed to something that they're doing, culty. And a lot of them put a lot of work in and they want to feel better.
Awesome. And how was the onboarding or setup process for you as we got started?
How was the onboarding part? It was good. And the portal was really great. The video preparing for that. Able to kind of get a decent sense of what to expect before the certification process. Granted, I didn't focus nearly as much on it as my staff did, but because I'm like, I'm not going to be stretching people. But yeah, I think that was really informative to like have a better understanding of what we were getting into, what it was actually going to be. Because sometimes you're just like, what is this? Right? So, but yeah.
Yeah, that's good. And then how did your staff respond?
Staff, well, I invited all of my staff to participate if they wanted. I had a few people kind of just elect in to do it just to have fun with it and learn something new. And then I kind of specifically had brought in some staff specifically like that I knew going in that they were going to be the people that I was going to center it around. And that part worked out really well. I think some of the people that did do the certification were like, I don't know if I want to do this, but I didn't really push them beyond the people that I already knew. I'm like, okay, you guys are going to do this. This is your job. So yeah. And I think that was good for me because my staff is pretty spread thin at this point. But I had these newer staff members coming in that needed hours.
They needed hours.
Yeah.
That's good. Because I remember one of your staff members who's pretty much the one who does most of the stretching. I don't think he was doing anything.
No, he was someone I had interviewed in like my full-time hire list, and I knew he had a kinesiology degree. I liked things about him in the interview process, but there were reasons why he wasn't the right fit to move forward to get the position, but I liked the way he had followed up with me professionally, and I knew he was working in a physical therapist office and things like that. So I knew he had the interest in this kind of thing. So I reached out to him and offered to see if he was interested in building this program. So.
Nice. And then let's talk about some results. What are some, let's do in timelines, because you started in June. So you're almost at a year now, a month out from a year of launching a stretch therapy program. From the certification, how long was it before you actually started stretching people?
It was really at the very end of June. I think it was like the last few days of June. So I think I ended up getting a little slow on the launch part because I had some travel in there. But I think it was another month and a half or 2 months before. Ideally, I would have done it way sooner. But there were some systems things that I was actually kind of glad I didn't because of how fast it grew. I would not have been prepared to handle the volume and some of the things that kind of needed to get tweaked in their systems. So
now I remember your numbers, but let's see. Do you remember like what the first 2 weeks revenue was?
I don't actually. You remember? I'm glad you wrote it down. Of course you wrote it down.
Did you doubt my personality?
No. Wow, man. All right.
So your first 2 weeks, you're at 2K.
Right. Yep.
In reoccurring revenue, you shot me a message. It was like, I can't believe we're already at 2K in 2 weeks. Of reoccurring. And then, so that was June. By September, we were at the Growth Summit together. Do you remember where you were then?
That would have been, I bet we were at about 5 then.
Yes, you were 5,400. And then in November, do you remember where your reoccurring revenue was from Stretch? So we're looking about 5 months out.
Was it at 9 at that point?
At $9,000.
Yep.
Did you ever eclipse the 10?
Nope, didn't get over 10 yet. But I feel confident we'll get over 10. Yeah.
So you already had a business, you already had expenses, outside of the certification or license and a new staff member to facilitate. The whole table set up, everything that you did was less than $1,000.
Yep.
And now you're generating, a good percentage of your revenue coming from another service.
Yeah, not an ounce on marketing yet. So like that was all internal. All internal from the two gyms. So, I mean, I know that those are our best people to get, but yeah, so that's all. I'm excited to see what happens when we get it. There's some reasons why we haven't gone external yet, but, honestly, I'm kind of glad because like we wouldn't have been able to handle the volume.
Now, were you hesitant when I said, hey, I recommend that you only do internal marketing?
No, I wasn't hesitant.
Okay,
no.
cool.
I was like,
good
you're
with that.
right. You are right.
Because the playbook is like, don't talk to anybody about this. Just only talk to your existing clients and former clients because you have more than enough, to make it up. So it was cool to see that. I remember your response to the CrossFit response because you didn't think that you were going to get that much business from the CrossFit side.
No, I really didn't. I don't know why. I mean, and they really proved me wrong. But, it's interesting too, then the people who intend to do it are the ones that are, they're just also really dedicated to the gym as well. So it was fascinating to me, but I'm happy to be proved wrong.
That's always good. When you increase your average client value, that's always a good thing, especially with no external marketing or anything like that. So describe your experience. You work with me and Amanda, the team, and your team has been able to plug into the monthly calls and things like that. Now, before I even ask you to describe the experience working with that, what percentage of stretching do you do personally?
0.
So you do 0 stretching, so you pretty much built a business. Like you have a business that's running without you, that's generating a really good amount of income.
Yeah. It's been really great. And it can really become its own little business for sure. We're about to bring on another part-time, well, he's a full-time person, but part of his pay is to do Stretch to expand the program. So we'll see what happens. And,
nice. Yeah. And talk about your experience working with us,
Well, you guys have been pretty easy to communicate with. And, obviously if I have a question, I can just reach out and you'll respond pretty quickly. I feel really comfortable with you guys. And I love that you are always so far ahead of us in the way that like, okay, you've tested this out. What worked, what didn't. And we always just know that you're constantly also adjusting things to make sure that you stay ahead of us and can pass that information down. So I appreciate that. And, I just know that like I can bounce anything off of you and I'll know that feel like confident we're making the right decision on how to structure the program. So
that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Now, you did your first event? Was this your first event that you just did?
Yeah, we just had our first kind of like, fair event type thing. Yeah.
And I remember you saying like, oh, I don't even, I couldn't even answer the questions properly. So you haven't mastered even how to explain what stretch therapy is.
Nope, not. It was so in our infancy here. Yep.
That's fine. That's fine. We'll cover it on our next global call.
Yeah.
But tell me the results. Let's talk. How much did it cost to do the event?
I think we ended up putting about $900 into it overall with materials and printed materials and banners and paying to be at the event.
So you're $900 soup to nuts. What kind of results? Because as in marketing, right, you put money out. We're both part of the same mastermind. We're taught like, you measure the math of marketing is ROAS, right? So did you get clients from this? Like, what were like, how many people, leads, how many clients, what happened?
Yeah, I think we got like 6 or 7 like booked, or excuse me, like leads come in specifically through it, which doesn't sound like a lot, but that's actually pretty good for us considering we weren't there for that long of a period of time. And we've already had, I think, 4 or 5 people book or pay for membership or some kind of package as well. So I think we're already we got to be at least 2,300 from that event a couple weeks ago. So that's great. So
you're excited about doing other events?
Yes, definitely. And we'll definitely have our pitch down and highlighting it more, because it was kind of not an afterthought, but it wasn't the main thing I was trying to promote at the event, but it definitely got the most questions and the most attention. And that wasn't even, we weren't even really highlighting in a way that we could have. So, and that wasn't our demographic for Stretch. So I'm really interested to see what happens when we go to a demographic that's better suited for it. So yeah, we're going to hopefully hit some sporting events and some health fairs and things like that.
That's pretty cool. I'm learning consistently, like almost every demographic could be, if they have the financial capability, could be a client with Stretch. So what would you say to someone? Because, we talk to people and you have a unique business structure. We have both the semi-private and you also have the large group through CrossFit. A lot of times I've seen there's this anxiety around making an investment and not sure if you're going to get an ROI on it, especially from the large group space and things like that. But even as a small gym owner, so for someone who's checking us out, maybe they've kind of gone through and they're like, I don't know, I'm really on the fence. I'm not sure if I have the money to put up for this kind of investment. What would you say to that person?
I feel like if you're there looking for a really valid extra service based revenue stream, it is a really great way to complement the fitness service that you're already providing, or save. Could save some clients. Like it could be a retention tool, and also can bring other clients in. So it can be an attractor into your fitness space, because you're going to get both people who want to leave because they're in pain, and you're going to get people already in pain and not realizing that what you do in your gym. So I would definitely think of this, and people love it. There hasn't been anyone that didn't love the service. It's whether they want to pay for it or not, but like ultimately the product itself, people are into for sure. And it's just different than massage. And it truly is unique in that the client wants something that they can feel immediate results with. And this gives them immediate relief, where fitness, it takes forever to see the results.
Legit. Legit.
And they have to do the work themselves, right? So this is a pretty unique thing, but it's not as exhausting, and sometimes you feel beat up from a massage, or you're kind of drained, dehydrated type of thing. This is a very different. You walk out feeling different. So yeah, and I think it's a great way to give your staff an opportunity to potentially make more income, and then also just showing that you are kind of the next tier in the fitness industry and differentiate yourself from your competitors, which we did have our competitor kind of approach us at the event and kind of, what are you guys doing?
You're not doing this yet?
Yeah. So that was interesting.
It always is.
Yeah.
We have gyms around us now that are literally trying to copy what we do.
Oh, I'm sure.
Which is so funny.
Yeah.
I didn't ask this, but as you were speaking, kind of triggered this thought. What was your thought about the value of doing an in-person certification versus just, there's a million online Stretch certifications right now?
I don't think I would have done it if it wasn't an in-person option, for sure. Because I just don't think the staff would have taken it seriously enough to apply it in a way that was quick and we're all doing this together and it needs to be done. It's going to be done now, and we're going to put this program into place now. And I feel like if it would have been, okay, you guys do this course on your own time, and let's come together and then practice on each other, it would have taken forever. So yeah, in person was the way to go for sure. And it was a nice way to get the staff together. We actually had a really great time over the weekend. It felt like it went pretty fast, and it was the first time we'd done anything like that together as a team. So that was nice.
Cool. Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing.
You're welcome.
That was awesome.
Thank you.